Hello, everyone. It is so great to be with you. I'm Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist and author and the originator of the Awareness Integration Theory. Our conversation in Inner Voice is about what matters most in our life: our mind, our thoughts, our feelings, actions, and relationships, and our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. I want to give you a couple of announcements. And first, I am going to be featuring my two books, Life Reset and the Awareness Integration Therapy. And it's going to be at the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books. So I'd love to see you there. It's going to be in USC, University of California Alumni Park. It's going to be this coming weekend, Saturday, April 23rd and Sunday, April 24th. I will be at the booth of the Greater Los Angeles Writers Society, Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. And Sunday from 12 to 2. So join me, come in. I mean, Los Angeles Festival of Books is amazing. They have thousands and thousands of books, and people will come in with, and you can see all of them, but I'd love to see you at booth number 944. Remember, USC Alumni Park, booth number 944. I will be there with two of my books, Saturday, April 23rd from 4 to 6, and Sunday, April 24th from 12 to 12 to 2. I have another announcement for all of you who have really asked about the Awareness Integration Theory. I do have a certification program. I love for you guys to be certified in this, because you're going to be a certified therapist or coaches on the awarenessintegration.com site and on Foojan app, which is going to be launching this summer. So the Essentials of Awareness Integration Theory will be on a 3-day conference in June 24th to 26th. So it's going to be 18 hours online. I do have, you can get CEUs from CAMP, California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. Just contact me. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to have you on our course, and for you to learn the Awareness Integration Theory. Now, I want to share with you that I'm going to chat with two of the most amazing therapists. I have learned so much from them. I have studied Imago therapy. I have worked with Imago therapy with couples for so many years. I love these two people, and I think that they are a jewel and truly an asset to the field of couples therapy and marriage and family therapy. Ready? Yes. And today I'm chatting with Dr. Harville Hendrix and Dr. Helen LaKelly Hunt, that they are the co-creators of Imago Relationship Therapy and a social movement called Safe Conversations. Internationally, they're respected as couples therapists, educators, speakers, activists, and New York Times best-selling authors. Of their 10 books, including timeless classic, Getting the Love You Want, A Guide for Couples, have sold more than 4 million copies. Harville appeared on the Oprah Winfrey television program 17 times, and Helen was installed in the Women's Hall of Fame and Smithsonian Institute. And today we will be actually talking about their latest book, which is wonderful because they've added so much of the quantum physics to their theory and how it has evolved. So it's a must. It is a must. The book is called Doing Imago Relationship Therapy in the Space Between. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be with them for a short conversation, and I am going to be back on the show again. So everyone, subscribe to this podcast, my YouTube channel, and connect with me through the website, foojanzeine.com, or any of the social media. And I love to hear from you. So don't go anywhere. Here it is, Dr. Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt. Hello, everyone, again. I am so excited to have Dr. Harville Hendrix and Dr. Helen Hunt with me. They are the Imago Therapy guru, the founder of Imago Therapy, and we're going to talk about their latest book, Doing Imago Relationship Therapy in the Space Between. So nice to have the two of you with me.
Well, thank you. We are always honored to be on with you. You're such a distinguished person.
Thank you. Thank you. I love this book. I was just going into it with all of what you have brought in from quantum physics, and it's fascinating. And one thing that I love about your work is it always makes sense.
Oh,
it makes sense. Like you read this thing, and it's like, well, yeah, of course. So for all of you who are out there, the Imago is the conversation of the image, and then you've talked about how the relationships are. We go after the image of the romantic partner is almost the image of what we desired for our parents to be in that same symbiotic. And that was what it was. And then the two of you have developed a whole new theory around it. So that was the stepping stone. And now you have completely shifted it, not only from the self and that kind of symbiotic, but to the outside world, to the relational world, and from a space within to this space out. Please share with us.
well, first I want to say that the space between is a phrase that Helen derived, I think, from Martin Buber and put it together, which is one of the indications that Helen is indispensable and has been indispensable to the development of Imago for the last 30 years that we've been, well, it's been almost 40 years that we've been working on this theory. And so that the space between, as you said, shifts the whole conversation from the self to the relationship. And in fact, we think that since the self is a derivative of relationship, that the relationship is primary rather than secondary. And the relationship has been secondary in the field of psychotherapy and even in marriage therapy ever since ever since Freud launched psychoanalysis in the late 19th century. So what we sort of evolved into without intending to was to make sense out of couples, and we finally became aware that you can't make sense out of couplehood by staying focused on two individuals. You have to make sense out of couplehood by paying attention to how they interact. And then we began to notice that the interaction between couples influences what goes on inside them. So instead of going inside and looking around and doing the exploratory work that psychotherapy had been doing ever since Freud, that we needed to look at the quality of the interactive space rather than the intrapsychic space. And that led then to a theory of relationship. We have to talk about relationship, but in psychology, there are no theories of relationship. Relationship is just something you have. It's something you can give up. It's something you can get. It's something you lose. It's a thing. And what began to emerge for us was a relationship is not a thing. Relationship is the thing. It is the foundational reality, but there's nowhere to ground it because classical physics was the ground of psychotherapy, because classical physics said everything's made out of atoms, and that got transformed in the psychological world, that the self was modeled after the atom as an autonomous, independent, self-sufficient thing, and that we had no place for that. So we began to look around, and Helen can talk about this. Before we actually met, and soon after we met, we had both read the popular versions, the Tao of the Wheelu Masters. And
it was the Tao of Physics. It was the first popular book on quantum. And we had both read it 40 years ago.
Yeah, but we had it didn't occur to us that we had any resource for couples therapy.
Well,
until about 3 years ago when we began to put together doing imago therapy in the space between. We say, where are we going to ground relationship? And then all of a sudden, in our, shall we say, perpetual conversations about what the nature of reality is, we said, in quantum field theory, because quantum field theory can be human relationships are derivatives of the field, of the quantum field, not the particle, but of the field itself, out of which the particles arise. So as you can see, that began then to come together as a reorganization of the whole system. And that's, I don't know how interesting all that is to most listeners, but to us, it was a monumental intellectual shift.
And if I could add one thing, when we were dating and Harville was lecturing on things, Dr. Zeine, I like the way you said that what we write about makes sense. Harville was lecturing in wherever anyone was interested in how to have a better marriage or how to have a better relationship. And that was a lot of people. They would call him and say, would you give us this lecture? And he would say there were 3 stages of relationship: romance, romantic attraction. Wow, fun, great. That makes sense that you want to get married with romantic attraction. But people don't know that stage 2 is the power struggle. Oh, well, that makes sense because people have get married and then suddenly they aren't as happy as they were on their wedding day. Well, guess what? No one is. And then stage 3, if you do a couple things in stage 2, everyone can get to stage 3. And he labels stage 3 real love. And that is why I wanted to propose to him. But at the time, so this is my additive, I had gotten a master's in counseling psych, and I wanted to be a Jungian analyst. And this is where I will say that even at the very beginning of Dr. Freud, after Dr. Freud, there was Dr. Jung, who Dr. Freud got mad at because Freud says there was the ego, the self, and the unconscious. And Dr. Freud said, and underneath the unconscious is the collective unconscious.
No, Dr. Jung said underneath the unconscious.
Dr. Jung, Carl Jung said, underneath the unconscious is the collective unconscious. Well, Dr. Freud didn't like that, but I wanted to be a Jungian analyst. And so this is when Harville and I met. I was going to study to be a Jungian analyst.
Yeah. So the ingredients of the ultimate relational emphasis was in Helen's interest in Jung, in which Freud could be considered a particle in the wave.
And Carl Jung very early on brought in the wave.
Yeah, in fact,
we're all interconnected through the collective unconscious.
Yeah, I've forgotten the name of the physicist, but Jung was the therapist for one of the founding quantum physicists. So he, I'm sure, got some grounding and help in understanding the collective unconscious from the physics student, the client that he did an analysis with. Now, I wish I could get his name back. Maybe it'll come back. I keep saying as I get older, my secretary is slower and she has a card file system and doesn't know how to use a computer. So in a while, she'll find the right.
And so we would love to be on your, the way you do presentations. Yeah. We hope in a couple of weeks we can come back. I mean, we'll have more today, but next time we come back, we'll have the name of that other person that was Jung's patient.
Oh, she's getting ready for a question.
As you have brought the quantum physics and combined it with the imago therapy, one of the things that I saw you had in your book is that the space between the quantum self, and you looked at this quantum self as a wavicle, which you say is essentially energy, specifically each of us is a point or in the limitless web of the universal energy. And therefore, psyche is no more stable or unchangeable than are any of our manifestations of the universal energy. And in that instant quantum consciousness shows up and operates in the same way as the cosmos, everything ranging from the largest objects to the smallest particles, and meaning that the human psyche is neither fixed nor absolute, but rather is in a constant oscillation in the context, in the bigger context of that oscillation. And what is bringing that into how you have brought this in, the beauty of you creating a different context in there. And I remember, like with Imago conversation before you brought this and developed the new level of the theory, that as we sat together, there was this conversation of going back, but each one of the conversations were still about one partner trying to understand the other partner and really looking at the other partner and going forward. But as I've watched some of your videos recently, it has really shifted. And one of the things that I saw that it shifted, which you guys have shared it because it was personal to you, is coming to zero negativity and creating this level of zero negativity within the context of in between. Can you share about that, please?
Well, yes, I think we'd start with the statement about safety, that one of the things that has emerged, and Helen emphasizes this even more than I do whenever we're lecturing. She goes, safety, safety, safety. That what we have
safety in the energy field between two
field.
People connect when there's anxiety.
Yeah,
connection is ruptured.
So that we start with that assumption that if you want a thriving relationship, you have no option but to create safety in the space between. Because if you create danger, and Stephen Porges, who is the author of the vagal theory, which is the sort of newest theory out right now, and everybody's learning about the vagal nerve, has made it really clear in academic books and in popular lectures that safety is essential for thriving. No, I'm sorry, let me say it again. Safety is essential for surviving, and that all mammals have to have safety to thrive, including, he said one time in a speech, all mammals have to be safe to thrive, including humans. And so we had been sensing that, but again, had no solid theory in the field to root it in. So with quantum physics and Stephen Porges in vagal theory, this idea about safety just became fixed. That is the one thing that's fixed in the theory. And if you want safety, then the logic is you can't go negative. Because if you go negative, you trigger the midbrain, you trigger the amygdala. And the amygdala is sitting there waiting to say, is this safe or dangerous?
And that releases cortisol, adrenaline. There's a negative neurochemicals that get released throughout your body, and you're not a healthy person. Like, you get sick more than other people, according to the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah. So
could I add?
Sure.
Do you say? So this, you have to then go to the brain where you mirror someone, and the sentence stems takes you to the neocortex. And I so appreciate how you started our meeting today. That'll be, our Zoom meeting where we're recorded, and you started saying, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. What you all are saying makes sense. And so makes sense is left brain, and that's part of the dialogue. You mirror someone, you say, "Would that make mirror? Did I get it right?" And if I got it right, that makes sense. Now, the next sentence in the sentence stems that we teach people to say is there more about that? Now, is there more is being curious and wondering. And that takes a person to the healthiest part of the brain, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And that makes sense as sort of a particle, but the wave is there more about that? Like, I don't know how you feel,
Mhm.
I don't, I wonder why you feel that way. I don't feel that way, but instead of blaming you or shaming you, can you tell me more?
Mhm.
Why is your political position what it is? Because mine is the other one. Why would you vote differently? Because I don't understand that political position. Well, instead of judging people and getting conflicted with them, this is going into the wave, when you wonder, and Dan Siegel, my favorite neuroscientist, says the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is the healthiest part of the brain to live in. And you tolerate ambiguity and you then move beyond predication. So all of us need to learn, and in our relationships, we need to wonder about our partners, not judge them. And this, if you wonder in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, you release calm neurochemicals, which I know because I do that with Harville, and he does it with me. We wonder about each other. And it's dopamine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. And you don't have to be mad at your partner. You can relax. And it's their life, their whatever. Yours is different. And you can still coexist in your marriage relationship in a happy way.
And what you have said in the quantum couple is presenting it as creating sustaining a safe environment, identifying earlier life challenges and becoming empathic about it, learning how defense is developed as a result of negative exchanges, and removing all the negativity from the interaction, and reconnecting to the person who both embodies one's challenges and has the power to help transform them, and then connecting with each other in a safe and non-judgmental through the Imago dialogue, stretching transform frustrations into requests for changed behaviors, and sustaining a wave-like quality of flow. One of the things that I remember, and becoming an advocate for celebrating, one's differences and theirs, and practicing presence and resonancing whenever the engage is there. One of the beautiful thing I read in your book, he said that people live in this fantasy of the relationship is going to create that type of symbiotic experience, and somehow we need to come back from fantasy to reality, that we're all grown-ups and we need to take care of each other. There was one point that I wanted to ask the two of you, which I remember when you guys had shared in some of the seminars with us, that although you had created Imago Therapy, at one point you had said, that's it, we're not going to be together because, and then you evaluated what was going on between the two of you, that although you were doing the dialogue, something was not working. And I remember, Helen, you said that you noticed that, the anger, the rage, and although you were trying really hard to create this space in between, that the internal negativity was still brewing. And there was a piece that I'm wondering here where in order to create this environment and speak in a way that you are compassionate, what would you suggest for each person to do in how to funnel that anxiety and rage that is coming up and not have it out, or how to shift that within themselves so that they can create the safety?
So I just want to say, since we're going to come back soon and have another session with you, I think probably Harville and I would both really like to unpack that in the second one, and maybe both of us could say a short thing now. And then we can elaborate on the next meeting with you.
And I would like to say something short. Sally,
you say it first and I'll do the second.
So we're still again talking about the reason we're talking about safety and anxiety. And when people are in their rage and their impassioned rage or whatever, behind that is anxiety. And rage is a way of managing because anxiety is that I might disappear from the universe. And so rage is a way of hanging on to being. You turn the anxiety into anger, or you could turn it into depression. Anything not to feel anxiety. So that means that what you have to have is a process that creates safety. And otherwise you'll have defenses. And we have defenses, then you have polarization, and then you have polarization, you've got the power struggle, you've got all the stuff none of us wants. So this is where we discovered, even though we reframe the science from classical physics to quantum physics as the science of the Imago therapy, the dialogue process appeared to have preceded this as a way to create that. So, and the reason it does it is that dialogue creates structure. and a lot of people don't like structure. They just want to go with the flow. And so we say, as Dr. Phil says, how's that working for you? Going with the flow, just doing whatever comes up and expressing yourself and saying whatever you think. That doesn't work. And what you have to have is structure. So the dialogue process creates structure that begins to regulate those feelings. The second way that's added to that is that brain theory right now is really emphasizing the predictive feature of the brain, that the brain does not simply see, the brain predicts what it's going to see based on what it saw last. And if you put people in a dialogue process, they are able to predict what's going to happen next. And what they predict is, my partner's going to say, well, let me see if I got that. And then my partner's going to say, did I get you? And I know, instead of my partner saying, well, I don't want to listen to that anymore, let me tell you my point of view, my partner is not going to do that. They're going to say, let me see if I got it. Did I get it? And as Helen used earlier, is there more about that? My partner's going to show curiosity. And then my partner's going to say, let me see if I'm getting all of this. And then my partner's going to say, well, you make sense. Let me validate that. And then my partner's going to say, and I can imagine how you might be feeling about that, which is empathy. Now the structure has produced safety and connecting. And when you do that reciprocally, now you're moving into that quantum space where the energy field is coherent rather than chaotic. So that would be my first download about that.
And then again, we'll come back on, but I will add a sentence or two. In our workshops, like basically we weren't doing everything that we told other people to do. But in our workshops, do you remember that we talk about sender responsibility? There are the sentence stems, but also sender responsibility is the look in your eye when you're talking, and your facial expression. Because you can sometimes say the words of the dialogue, but do them. Harville has a great photo in our workshop PowerPoint, a cat sitting there looking with cat eyes. Yes, staring. And then there's, and he said, shift from the cat to the glare to the gaze. And he has a dog, like a basset hound, looking. and so this was the big thing that changed my relationship with Harville, was how he looked at me when he was talking. And now I just have had tears in my eyes. He looks at me so lovingly and kindly, and I feel it's not just words about dialogue. It's the expression on his face, the look at his eye.
So the last thing that then we'll have to go is the look that Helen is talking about also has a quantum ground. In quantum physics, it's how you look at a particle when you are experimenting with it determines how the particle shows up. The particle is not a thing that is independent of the observer. So when we talk about the impact of the look, I constellate in Helen how she responds to me by the way I look at her. And quantum field theory grounds that in a thing called the double slit experiment, in which the way the researcher looks at the particle determines whether the particle is a wave or a particle. So I think we are going to have to go with that, but throw it back to you for the final thing.
Yes, so what I'm hearing from you is that when the structure of the Imago dialogue, as it's created, it's set up to create the safety. So no matter how much you're activated internally, as you come into the safe structure of the dialogue, that starts dissipating because the environment that dialogue creates is safety. And then, so therefore, within it, even if one person of the two, which has a little bit of a less type of engagement in this, is starting to create that type of love that comes through your eyes, that essence of empathicness that comes.
So it's both structure and an energy field. And with that, we really need to go. And we'll say more next time. We'll unpack that.
We'll unpack that. But for last wording though, there were a couple of things you wanted to share, which was something you did big in that. No,
I'm sorry. We have to go. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Well,
can we share it again?
Yes.
Something came up and we have to.
All right. Well, we will all enjoy our conversation with you next in a couple of weeks again. So thank you so much
great.
for coming and being.
Thank you for understanding our schedule today.
Of course.
Togetherness Media. Togethernessmedia.com